Samsy. Story time with Ronnie. Hey guys. Oh, we're gonna pick it right up right here. The Island of Dr. Moreau, Part 15. Now we just hit the bottom of the Salt River Canyon. We came from Timber Camp, and we're gonna finish this sucker up, I don't know, somewhere up the road here somewhere. We's heading from the bottom of the Salt River Canyon. We's heading east on the US 60, and we's gonna end up somewhere. Oh, here we go. Take a look at that beautiful big old crack in the windshield there. And you can see every once in a bit there's a drill mark, and that was in an attempt to slow that crack down and stop it. So if you can't, once you get a big old crack, you really can't do much with it. And the only chance you got is you drill the end of the crack and you try to fill it up, and hopefully it stops. And that one there, well, he's 8 or 9 years old, and I finally replace it, and sure enough, within 2 trips, it's cracked again. So I'll have to start drilling that one and see how many years I can make that one last. Anyway, holy cow, look down there, that Salt River Canyon. Isn't that just something? Middle of the day, middle of summer, absolutely horrible light. So enjoy. Okay, now this story, this Dr. Moreau thing. Prendick, he ran away. He figured he was going to be the next guy to be tied down and tortured and turned into some kind of a mutant. So he's like, and he's on it. He took off, and he came across this guy in the forest, of course, and he's kind of like a half ape looking guy. So he's trying to match wits with this guy and see where this goes. So well, let's pick it up there. He came down with a twisting jump and stood facing me. "I say," said I, "where can I get something to eat?" "Eat," he said. "Eat man's food now." And he went back to the swing of ropes. "At the huts." "But where are the huts?" "Oh, I'm new, you know." At that, he swung round and set off at a quick walk. All his motions were curiously rapid. "Come along," said he. I went with him to see the adventure out. I guessed the huts were some rough shelter where he and some more of these beast people lived. I might perhaps find them friendly, find some handle in their minds to take hold of. I did not know how far they were from human heritage I ascribed to them. Let me try that one again here. Hang on a second. I did not know how far they were from the human heritage I ascribed to them. My ape-like companion trotted along by my side, with his hands hanging down and his jaw thrust forward. I wondered what memory he might have in him. "How long have you been on this island?" said I. "How long?" he asked, and after having the question repeated, he held up 3 fingers. The creature was little better than an idiot. I tried to make out what he meant by that, and it seems I bored him. After another question or two, he suddenly left my side and sprang at some fruit that hung from a tree. He pulled down a handful of prickly husks and went on eating the contents. I noted this with satisfaction, for here, at least, was a hint for feeding. Let's take a look at this drive here. Oh yeah, Nothing happening. We just climbing our way out in the excruciating heat. And we won't get below 100 degrees until we get right up into show low. And that's pretty much the end of the heat. It stops climbing by then. But show low often gets really close to 100, if not 100. All right. And that's degrees, too. That's not like green alligators or pink elephants or anything. I tried, dancing bears, I tried him with some other questions, but his chattering, prompt responses were, as often as not, quite at cross purposes with my question. Some few were appropriate, others quite parrot-like. I was so intent upon these peculiar... Yeah, this is going to take some lubrication here. Hang on. Let me see if I can get me just a little bit of water, and we'll try this one again here. Okay, let's try this now. I was so intent upon these peculiar... Not going to happen. Hang on a second. All right, let's try this one again. I was so intent upon these peculiarities that I scarcely noticed the path we followed. Presently, we came to trees, all charred and brown, and so to a bare place covered with a yellow-white incrustation, across which went a drifting smoke, pungent in whiffs to nose and eyes. On our right, over a shoulder of bare rock, I saw a level blue of the sea. The path coiled down abruptly into a narrow ravine between two tumbled and knotty masses of blackish scoriae. Into this we plunged. It was extremely dark. The passage, after the blinding sunlight reflected from the sulphurous ground, its walls grew steep and approached one another. Blotches of green and crimson drifted across my eyes. My conductor stopped suddenly. "Home," said he, and I stood in a floor of a chasm that was at first absolutely dark to me. I heard some strange noises, and thrust the knuckles of my left hand into my eyes. I became aware of a disagreeable odor, like that of a monkey's cage, ill cleaned. How would you know what that smells like? Beyond, the rock opened again upon a gradual slope of sunlit greenery, and on either hand the light smote down through a narrow channel into the central gloom. What, some like little secret place that these guys got? Probably not so secret. Let's take a look at this drive. Oh, we digging our way out. I broke down in this Salt River Canyon one time, and needed a tow truck to come and get us on out of here. I should have fixed it myself, but it was early on, and I was a believer in warranty and all that stuff. And they did fix it. It just took a long time to get the tow truck in there and get out, and then you just got to deal with all of that. And of course I needed another new windshield, because while it was being towed, the tow truck coughed up a rock and took out the windshield. So you'll find out that if you get any kind of these RVs, these Class A's especially, windshields are big things. If you got insurance with glass protection, you are going to use it. All right, so we're rolling. We almost out of this thing, out of this Salt River Canyon. I'm not sure how far we're going to get, but let's just take a look and just see how far are we going to get. Oh, we got quite a ways to go. Quite a ways to go. So I can see the end of this chapter coming up. Okay. Oh, I can see it coming up because we's there, and I got my finger stuck right on it. Chapter 12. The Sayers of the Law. Oh, I remember this part from the bad movie. Then something cold touched my hand. I started violently and saw close to me a dim pinkish thing, looking more like a flayed child than anything else in the world. The creature had exactly the mild but repulsive features of a sloth. The same low forehead and slow gestures. As the first shock of the change of light passed, I saw about me more distinctly. The little sloth-like creature was standing and staring at me. My conductor had vanished. The place was a narrow passage between high walls of lava, a crack in its knotted flow, and on either side of interwoven heaps of sea mat. Palms, sea mat, palm fans, and reeds leaning against the rock formed rough and impenetrable dark dens. The winding way up the ravine between these was scarcely 3 yards wide, and was disfigured by lumps of decaying fruit pulp and other refuge which accounted for the disagreeable stench of the place. So not an uncleaned monkey cage. All right. Oh, yeah. Okay, I think we start speeding up to about 45 now. It's 35 mile an hour all the way through there, and then, yeah, there I see a 45 right there. It speeds up to 45 here, and everybody really, really wants to go 60. Well, the road isn't quite that big, and then there's some 35 mile an hour turns that just pop up, and they warn you with very little time left. And so there's a reason why it's so slow like that. Anyway, yep, before I get too far down that road, just know that bad things can happen. All right. Years and years and years of windshield time has shown me that the important things are not getting there 10 minutes sooner. The little pink sloth creature was still blinking at me when my ape man reappeared at the aperture of the nearest of these dens, and he beckoned me in. As he did so, a slouching monster wriggled out of one of the places further up this strange street and stood up in featureless silhouette against the bright green beyond, staring at me. I hesitated, and half a mind to bolt the way I had come, and then, determined to go through with the adventure, gripped my nailed stick about the middle and crawled into the little evil-smelling lean-to after my conductor. It was a semicircular space shaped like the half of a beehive, and against the rocky wall that formed the inner side of it was a pile of variegated fruits, coconuts among others. Some rough vessels of lava and wood stood about the floor, and one on a rough stool. There was no fire. In the darkest corner of the hut sat a shapeless mass of darkness that grunted, "Hey," as I came in, and my ape man stood in the dim light of the doorway and held out a split coconut to me as I crawled into the other corner and squatted down. I took it and began gnawing it as serenely as possible in spite of a certain trepidation and the nearly intolerable closeness of the den. The little pink sloth creature stood in the aperture of the hut, and something else with a drab face and bright eyes came staring over its shoulder. Ha! All right, take another peek here. See where we at. I don't know how far we get today. I guess we'll find out soon enough here. Let's just take a little break. Okay, so let's find us a good spot. We don't got a whole lot left, so we'll just wrap this thing up here. All right. Oh, right, the little pink sloth creature in a drab face with bright eyes came staring over his shoulder. Hey, came out of the lump of mystery opposite. It is a man. It is a man, gabbled my conductor. A man, a 5-man like me. Shut up, said the voice from the dark, and grunted. I gnawed my coconut amid an impressive silence. I peered hard into the blackness, but could distinguish nothing. It is a man, the voice repeated. He comes to live with us. It was a thick voice with something in it, a kind of whistling overtone that struck me as peculiar, but the English accent was strangely good. The ape-man looked at me as though he expected something. I perceived the pause was interrogative. He comes to live with you? I said. It is a man. He must learn the law. I began to distinguish now a deeper blackness in the black, a vague outline of a hunched-up figure. Then I noticed the opening of the place was darkened by 2 more heads. My hand tightened on my stick. The thing in the dark repeated in a louder tone. Say the words. I had missed its last remark. Not to go on all fours. That is the law, it repeated in a kind of sing-song. I was puzzled. Say the words, said the ape-man, repeating, and the figures in the doorway echoed this with a threat in the tone of their voices. I realized that I had to repeat this idiotic formula, and then began the insanest ceremony. The voice in the dark began intoning a mad litany line by line, and I and the rest to repeat it. As they did so, they swayed side to side and beat their hands upon their knees, and I followed their example. I could have imagined I was already dead and in another world. That dark hut, these grotesque, dim figures, just flecked here and there by a glimmer of light, and all of them swaying in unison and chanting? Ha ha! All right, let's take a look. I think we're probably going to knock it off. We're pretty close to this. Is getting pretty good and weird. Let me give you a taste here. They're doing that singing and chanting thing. Not to go on all fours. That is the law. We are not men. Not to suck up drink. That is the law. Are we not men? Are we not men? See, I'm just chewing this whole thing up anyway, so let's just give it up right there. That's the end of the story for today. Man, if I don't put a mark on it, I mean, you would think I would remember that I would be right there, but... Okay, let's just talk a little bit about this drive. And oh boy, there. I had forgotten to mention. Now you can see that windshield wiper there. Do you see it kind of looking a little bit lazy there? He's kind of lazy there. He's kind of flopping down there. Those windshield wipers, you got to check them things a little more often than what I have done just recently here, because that one's obviously loose. And it's a good thing it's not raining, because if I have to turn them on today, I got a feeling one of them's going to crash into the other one. All right, so that's the end of this little drive, and we got the story taken care of for now. So we just got to do this last little bit here, and thank you so much for coming along. And we'll do a little bit of some sea. And there she is. That's big old Rosie. You just take a moment, Big Rosie, and you go ahead and fight them dragons. Aha! You go get them, girl.